Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we are really getting into it. We're unpacking the sources around a name that's just forever tied to one of hip-hop's biggest mysteries,
Right.
Orlando Anderson.
Right.
Our goal, really, is to pull out the key insights, the important bits to help you understand, the person behind the headlines and maybe the circumstances that kind of shaped his story.
And that's crucial because the sources we've looked at, they present Orlando Baby Lane Anderson as, well, a really paradoxical figure. Kind of an enigma.
Yeah.
Deeply connected to gang life and obviously the tragic Tupac Shakur shooting. Mm-hmm. What really stands out in these sources is how they just lay out the facts.
Stark facts.
Yes, stark is the word. Murdered at 23, never actually charged for Tupac's death, but then he's explicitly named.
By who?
By investigators, sure, but also by his own uncle. Yeah, it's this chilling example of how a short life, even without that legal resolution, becomes this focal point. It reflects this collision,
Yeah.
Street life, gang culture, family ties, maybe ambition, and this huge moment in hip-hop. It's a really tragic part of that whole 90s LA story.
It truly is. So, okay, if we want to grasp Anderson's role here, the sources seem to consistently point towards one specific moment, the one that kind of put him on this path.
You mean Vegas?
Exactly. Las Vegas, around the Tyson-Selden fight. Can you walk us through what the sources say happened there?
Absolutely. So the sources are pretty clear. Anderson is in Vegas for the fight, and this is where it all kicks off. He's in the MGM Grand lobby.
Okay.
And he gets spotted by Trayvon Trey Lane. Now, Lane was a Bloods affiliate, part of the Bloods gang, and importantly, he had connections to Death Row Records.
Tupac's label.
Precisely. Tupac's label, Suge Knight's label. So this sighting wasn't just like a random encounter. It was a spark.
A spark is a good way to put it. And the sources, they confirm what happened next was immediate.
Yeah.
And very public.
Oh, yeah. Immediate. Very public. And significant because it was caught on the hotel's CCTV.
Right, the footage?
That footage. Uh-huh. It shows Tupac and Suge Knight going right up to Anderson, confronting him, attacking him, punching him, right there in the lobby.
Not just some minor scuffle then.
No, not at all. And the sources really emphasize this point. That specific incident immediately ignited speculations of revenge. It put Anderson front and center, a key figure of interest in, what tragically unfolded later that same night. It basically etched him into that whole story.
So this single violent moment, caught on tape, it sort of seals his fate in the narrative, setting up this grim legacy the sources talk about.
It really does seem to frame it that way.
What do you say specifically about his life, his legacy, especially considering, like you said, he was never formally charged?
Well, what comes across really strongly, and it's quite poignant, is how the sources present his life as this stark warning, almost a cautionary tale.
About what?
About the consequences, the unforgiving nature of that street life. He was murdered so young, just 23.
Yeah.
But the story around him means he's become, as the sources put it, infamously hated around the world for much longer than he actually lived.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about public memory, doesn't it?
That is profound. Hated longer than he was alive. And there's that detail you mentioned earlier about how authorities linked him. Something pretty shocking.
Yeah, it's genuinely surprising when you read it in the sources. They point out he was, and this is a quote, snitched on by none other than his own uncle.
His own uncle.
And if you think about that in the broader context, it gives you this kind of chilling look into the pressures, the fractures within that world. Where even family ties might braid under the weight of the street code, the consequences.
Loyalty and betrayal all mixed up.
Exactly. And the sources kind of wrap up this part with a quote that it hits hard. It sums up his short life by noting Anderson had, quote, no great achievements in his short life, only a legacy of violence and murder to be remembered by.
Oof, that's bleak.
It is. Very bleak.
So, okay, wrapping this up for you listening, we've unpacked what the sources say about Orlando Anderson. From that really specific explosive fight in the MGM lobby.
Yeah, the catalyst moment.
To the wider tragic legacy they describe for him. It seems pretty clear his life is presented less as a footnote and more as this stark, unavoidable warning.
Yeah, and that leaves us with a really important question, something for you to think about. What does it actually mean when someone like Rolando Anderson, never formally charged, remember, gets so deeply embedded in history as this controversial figure,
Right.
infamously hated around the world, as the sources say, for way longer than his 23 years on Earth, and primarily remembered for this legacy of violence and murder, even while so many details are still debated, still speculative.
What does that tell us?
Well, what does it tell us about the power of a story, a narrative, about what happens when there's no definitive legal ending? And how much power does kind of public opinion have in shaping how someone is remembered forever?
A lot to think about there. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.